Welcome to another episode of Tell Me More, a hospitality data podcast. I'm Stephanie Ricca with CoStar News, as always here with STR's Isaac Collazo and CoStar's Jan Freitag. Hi, Isaac. What's new with you?
Not much, Steph. I'm always in this data coal mine that Jan forces me to go to on a daily basis. He closes the door and then he goes, "We'll see you next week." And then he
Oh,
leaves, and I'm just here toiling
working
away.
in a data coal
No,
mine. We can
looking
sing
for
a
the
song about
gold,
it.
looking
Looking,
for the data nuggets, looking for the data gold. So
I
we have
know.
something to talk about on Tell Me More.
That's exactly
So
right. But I do get out every once in a while. And yesterday I got back out to the Ryman and got to see Joe Jackson, which was great.
Oh,
wow, nice.
okay. How do we know Joe Jackson?
Joe
Sing us a
Jackson's
song.
So, "Is She Really Going Out with
Is
Him?" That's a
she?
song, and "Stepping Out." You remember that from the
Yes.
'80s.
Is she
So,
really going out? Oh
yeah,
boy.
it was
I
great. It was a great
didn't ever
show.
want to sing on Tell Me More, but
Yeah,
here
you
we
don't want
are.
me to sing because it's I have a really bad voice for that, but it was fun. It was great to be out there. It's always great to be in Nashville and so many shows, and then this weekend, we'll see Young the Giant, which will be great.
Wow.
Last weekend, we saw Ed Sheeran. So, yes, I am getting out,
Wow.
but but then Jan sends me notes in the middle of the show. "Did you get
Hey,
that data slide for me? Do you have that information
hello.
for me?" He's just
Mining
working
for
me to death,
gold
Steph.
nuggets.
We're not here for
Well,
fun. Come on.
it's those gold data nuggets. Maybe that'll be
Yep.
the title of our show. And Jan, how are you? We're recording this episode on the morning before Germany's match with Ecuador. And for
Ecuador.
those of you who cannot see us, Jan is quite ready. He's wearing his kit.
I'm wearing the jersey that I bought during NYU when I walked by the Adidas store and thought, oh, this is a sign. I snuck in and got the official. And you can tell it's official because it has 4 stars over the logo, which means Germany has won the World Cup 4 times. And hopefully soon this jersey will be old because maybe we can add another one. Anyways, um, the concert that Isaac did not mention is that Taylor Swift popped up on stage in Nashville 2 nights ago for
She
a
sure
song
did.
because her husband's fiance, I guess, is in town for some
And
football
that's
thing.
my backyard. She literally was in
Yeah,
my
she
backyard,
was. Yes.
and I didn't realize.
But the other thing
Wow.
is happy summer. It's after June 20 or
I
21. So
know.
Yeah.
happy summer.
It's summer has officially begun, even though, of course, on our May show, we talked about like that summer season for lodging between Memorial Day and Labor Day. But now we are deep in it. And fear not, listeners, we will go over the first 2 weeks of World Cup match highlights later on in the episode. Match highlights, maybe some related hotel data, who knows. But
Maybe.
speaking of summer, I have one headline I want to quickly ask you about, which I think some maybe gets a little bit lost as we get into all the World Cup information. But we're approaching the July 4th holiday here in the US, right? Where we are also celebrating our, say it with me, semi-quincentennial.
Semi-quincentennial.
Wow.
Semi-quincentennial. Say it 3 times. Semi-quincentennial.
I can't say it.
Which
Or
means what? It's half of
America
500.
250. It's
Yeah.
America 250. We've been talking all year about how the major US holidays this year seem to be falling on long weekends, which is very good for travel. We just had
Mhm.
Juneteenth, July 4th will be the same. Any early indicators, guys, that this coming July 4th will be a particularly good July for that America 250 reason?
It's
Isaac, anything
gonna be a
showing up
little bit hard to
or
tell in
Jan?
some of the East Coast markets because of the World Cup overlap, right? Overlay, like in
Mm.
Philadelphia or DC or New York.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. How about Boston?
Well, again, you have the World Cup there as well. I mean,
Yeah, they've got World Cup matches
So
and
DC, we will see, clearly an impact.
yeah,
mhm.
it's been interesting because Jan and I have been talking a lot about weekends, and obviously the Juneteenth weekend wasn't great, and so the World Cup markets did great, but the rest of the U.S. did not. And so we were both earlier today. We're looking at just the occupancy change, and over the last, I'm looking at 6 to 7, 8 weekends, it's been pretty flat. ADR is
Mm,
rising, but the occupancy side seems pretty flat. So it's hard, it'll be interesting to see how this materializes, what happens over the weekends in the
right,
non-World Cup markets.
So
right.
my hot take has always been that these are a lot more regional events and drive to events where people don't necessarily use hotel rooms.
The
That
America
they would go.
250 events.
Well, and 4th of July, right? That you go to the
Mm,
major market, like
yes.
for example, Nashville has a huge firework. It's going to be on TV again, and but there are probably going to people driving in, seeing it, and then driving back home. And there might be on the margins a little bit of demand. The America 250 thing, I honestly think it's a little bit. This is my bias, but it seems more East Coast driven than West Coast driven.
Hmm.
I'm not familiar with like the San Diego 250. There's going to be something there,
No. And
you
well,
know.
it's combinations of events. I think it's not
Right.
super organized or regimented around a certain date, but I know that DC, Philadelphia, I think, some of those, again, major East Coast markets are doing an extra big July 4th splash.
I
No,
find it's not like it was when the 200th, right? So again, we were all pretty young when, and Jan wasn't even in this country at that point, but uh, there
Wasn't
seemed a
even
lot more
born.
excitement. Again, we were all in school, maybe because we were all in school, and there was a
Uh-huh.
lot more build up. Remember the Freedom Train? There was a parade in my hometown, San Antonio. So for on July 4th, it would just
So
seems
that felt like a much bigger event.
it
Interesting.
did. It could be perspective too, because I was
Hmm.
younger, right? So I mean, it could be just that we're older too, but it just seems less exciting that than the 200th anniversary, especially the Freedom Train. I still remember the Freedom Train
Wow.
and going in and seeing all the exhibits there. So it'll be
I
interesting to see how that plays. And at the same time, it's playing against the World Cup, so we have so
Exactly.
it'll be
A lot of
lots of
attention
right,
diversion.
I
right.
literally had a reporter who will go unnamed asking me, so what was this like in 1976? Can you give me some performance data? And then ideally, do you have any data back to 1926 where we compared? Like,
Oh
what?
No,
Wow. Sorry. No, we do
no.
not.
no.
Our data begins in 1987. So first of all, for listeners out there, so that monthly data begins in 1987. Daily data or weekly data did not even begin until 2000. So no, we cannot go back in time to figure out what happened in 1976. There was just
So
no
it
data
will
sources.
it will take another 200, well, 199 years before we can present to you
Yes.
the CoStar STR semi-quincentennial of daily and weekly data. So stay
Then stay
tuned,
tuned.
listeners. We'll do a special episode then. But before we get into the most immediate 10 days of interesting hotel performance around the country, Isaac, we need to talk about May.
Yeah.
Give us some highlights.
Another surprise, because again, on my wall behind me, you can see, but you can't see where it's out of camera range, which I do that on purpose. We have all our expectations and it's Isaac's expectations, not only the STR forecast, which we released at NYU, as we all remember just a month ago, but then Isaac does his own special math and puts things on the wall. So even on my special math, May came in even stronger than what we thought. So RevPAR for the month of May was up 4%. Year to date, it's also 4%, which is unchanged from a month ago. And what's interesting about the RevPAR outside of the post-COVID period, 21 to 23, this was the highest year to date growth rate for RevPAR since 2015. So that's an
Wow.
interesting fact.
Wow.
Since
80
2015.
2015. Again, 21, 22, 23 saw very strong RevPAR growth, but again, that was coming out of the post-COVID, so you had easy comps, all that good stuff. ADR was up for the month 3.4%. This is the highest monthly ADR on a nominal basis for any month on record. Again, I thought that was an interesting fact. But when you adjust,
Any month on record from what was that year, Jan? 1926?
Exactly.
yeah,
Can we
probably
The
please
yes.
last
double
100
check
years.
it?
Yes, we can go ahead and check that. But when you adjust for inflation and compared to 2019, monthly ADR was still 3.1% below May of 2019. So yes, absolute or nominal numbers are still very strong, but again, we've had a lot of inflation since the end of COVID, so keep that in mind. Year to date ADR is 2.7%. that is near, but it's no, actually, it's below now the rate of inflation for the average inflation for this year. So again, but it is up from 2.5% at the end of Q1. So at least the year to date number is starting to move upward. And then when you adjust it for inflation, it's 3.5% below year to date May of 2019. So again, it's getting better, but we're still behind. So it's going to
Right.
take some time.
There are still
Um,
external factors.
Right. Demand was up 1.1%. The only thing you should really know about demand, there's other facts I'll give you. But again, if you look at a chart, if we could show you a chart since February, you would see that yes, demand has grown in every month since February, but it's a declining trend, which concerns both Jan and I that the growth rate continues to decline, although the 1.1% was better than what we expected for the month of May as well. So just something to keep in mind. Although, and I would think just based on my my calculations, June will also continue that trend where demand will be up, but it'll be less than it was in May. So just keep that in
Hmm.
mind, and we'll talk about that in a few more minutes. That being said, this was the second highest made demand behind 2019. So 2019 was the high water mark for demand for the month of May. But what was really interesting is even though it was second, it was only 20,000 rooms less than the record. So we're not talking a big gap. It was very close to
Hmm.
being a record. This was
Flat.
also, as I said, the fifth month of demand growth this year. So that's great. And nearly all the demand growth, this is different, for the month of May came from weekdays. And according to Cole Martin, who did all the work for me, shout out to Cole, who continues to make sure all my facts are correct, 97% of the demand growth was from Sunday through Thursday during the first full for the 4 weeks of May, where we look at it very structurally by week. So it's something to keep also that we've seen the business side come back, which is
May I
important.
clarify, Isaac? Is that compared to April or compared to May last year?
This compared to May of last
Okay.
year.
Okay.
Yeah, compared to May of last year. Group demand was down 1%, and that's among luxury and upper upscale hotels. That was surprising. And again, I always, when I look at the group numbers, I always worry about people booking outside the groups and things of that sort. So I wonder that we're still seeing a shift there. And also
And
people using upscale or upper mid-scale hotels. Yes, Jan.
and the calendar shift, right?
And the
Like we
calendar shift.
traded
Yeah.
a Sunday for a Thursday. So.
Yeah. So it could be that. Year to date demand is up 1.8%. That is still at the highest year to date. It is the highest year to date amount ever for May year to date. So again, a lot of that came. Remember, April was a record. So you're seeing
Hmm.
multiple records. We're up over more than 9 million rooms sold versus 2025. So very strong a year. And speaking of demand, another shout out to a super fan, Cindy, along with Kelly and David at ESA. They gave us so many demand insights this week because as we work through our forecast, we do speak with our clients and seeing what are they saying, what should we be thinking about, and it was great speaking with them at ESA, just seeing what they're talking about and
Hmm.
thinking about the future. In terms of markets, 37 markets had their highest May demand on record. 3 of those were the top 25, were in the top 25. That included Philadelphia, Chicago, Detroit. And remember, Chicago, we talked about it in April,
Wow.
again with April
Yes.
data. Chicago's been on
Hmm.
fire. I mean, it's
Oh
just been
no,
on
you don't
fire.
want to say
Oh,
that. You'll trigger too many Chicago listeners too soon.
all right. Not a fire. Just been very strong, very strong. Las Vegas, among the markets, Las Vegas saw the largest RevPAR growth of the top 25 markets. It was up 17.9%. ADR was the driver, some big conferences there.
Also been on a
Um,
comeback tour.
yes, exactly. Uh, Demand, let's see, looking at Philadelphia, RevPAR, its RevPAR increase was the second highest among the top markets, 15% going into the World Cup period. And then one of the other interesting facts that Cole found out, El Paso, Texas, had the biggest RevPAR growth of any market, 37.9% in May. Guess why?
I cannot begin to think of why. Is there a
Be-
rodeo? Is there a
Very close. BTS was on tour and
oh
played.
Must be music.
a fan
Must-
rodeo?
I just thought that was fascinating of El Paso. And
Yeah.
I'm also interested for anyone out there who is in the booking business. I'd really want to
Hmm.
understand El Paso for BTS. That sounds very interesting to me. And so, and it actually, according to the code we were talking about, it, the demand really spread out because there's just not enough rooms in El Paso for the demand that BTS brought in. So you saw it into New Mexico and other things. Really interesting, but I'm just surprised BTS and Coldplay played there last year. It's not a
There's so
market I
many
would have thought.
factors around the like venue decision and tour options. I have no idea what they are. I know they exist. I
Yeah,
feel like this might be a special episode with data that we look at
yeah.
some other time.
And I know at HDC we're doing some event presentations, so that
Yes,
might be
we
for
are.
listeners. If you have not purchased yours, not subscription, you can't subscribe, but
Your
your
registration to this year's Hotel
registration,
Data
you might
Conference,
want to do that now.
August
For
5 through 7. We will drop a link in the show notes.
Exactly. And then for May year to date, San Francisco still remains a top growth market, right? Leads the top 25 in RevPAR, ADR, occupancy, demand growth. RevPAR was up 20% year to date on a 5.2 point occupancy increase and 11% ADR gain. So very strong. Nashville is countering the industry trends with strong demand growth, but negative ADR. And that's something I was talking to
Hmm.
a friend over the weekend, and I meant to look into this. I still haven't figured out why. So demand is up 7.1%. It's the second highest increase among the top 25, but ADR is down almost 1%. And it's one of only 5 top 25 markets with negative ADR. And
Well,
again,
and keep in mind that Fern skewed, the January, February data
that's true. I
way
remember
up,
yeah,
and at that time, hoteliers were, of course, really kind and welcomed people into their hotels and did not drive rate,
right.
so that's probably part of the conversation there.
And as you think about it, just for all the listeners out there, as you think about the outlook for US before we go into the global piece, just remember that June has one less Sunday and an extra Tuesday. So
Mhm.
again, June will gonna be it's gonna be strong, right? As we just think about it, that's gonna make it really strong. And July has one less Tuesday and an extra Friday. So 5 Fridays in July. So that could also be that's another positive for June and July.
Mhm.
We think Q2 will be much stronger than Q1. It's going to be on ADR because of a little World Cup thing that's happening.
Mm.
But we think Q2 demand will be slower than what it was in Q1. And overall, year to date, it's going to be well ahead of our full year expectations. As you know, we raised our forecast to 2.8%. Now I'm worried that that's going to be also on the low side. And
Mhm.
so, because of what I'm thinking and seeing on June and July. And then just
Right.
quickly on global RevPAR on a constant USD basis, excluding the US, rose 4.3%. And recall, a month ago, it had dropped
Yes.
1.4%. So
Mhm.
what changed? Well, what changed was we saw better performance in the Gulf cooperation countries, the GCC,
Okay.
and that's because of Eid, which is the second and holier of the two main Islamic holidays. And that
Mhm.
really, just to give you an idea, RevPAR for the month of May in Saudi Arabia was up 75.8%, driven by ADR.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's what really
Okay.
drove it. But we also saw the decrease in UAE was more wasn't as bad as it was in April.
Mhm.
So it was down about 23% versus 60% in April. So there is some moderation in declines, and hopefully we'll start the comeback in
That will
terms of
continue.
performance in the UAE and GCC overall. Year
Mhm.
to date, global RevPAR is up 3.2%, and that's up from 2.8% in April. So again, that this month of May really helped the year to date number. In terms of countries seeing declines, unfortunately, Jan, I know they're in the World Cup, but Germany was down in hotel performance. So you're going to have to align. If the team's going to win, we got to get the hotel team to win too. So, Jan, can you
Yes,
work on that? Because that they were down.
I'll make a call.
Okay, make a call. And Mexico was down as well. And Mexico's fallen in every month since August. And it's been on ADR. The only good news, mostly on ADR and occupancy of late, but the ADR decreases are starting to moderate. So that should also help. In terms of leaders, because we're all talking about the downside, the leader this month was India, where RevPAR increased by 23.3%. And then other
Wow.
solid gainers included Canada, the Caribbean, Italy, Japan, and Spain, where RevPAR advanced by more than 5%.
Mhm.
And then finally, for year to date, because of the Winter Olympics, Italy continues to be on the top spot with a year-to-date RevPAR gain of 14.6%, followed by India at 10.2%.
Hmm. So remind me that June we lose a Sunday and gain a Thursday,
Oh,
We lose a Sunday and gain a
a
Tuesday.
Tuesday. That
Yes.
sounds like
mm.
it should be a lyric to a country song, doesn't it?
I hope I got that.
I
Yeah.
lost my Sunday.
It's a yeah,
But
so it'll be it should be a good month. I gotta check on that. I'm
and
sure it's all right.
anything surprise you about May performance, Jan?
Couple of comments, maybe not big surprises. So good to see that midweek continues to, do its thing, be strong. Group demand is back. Isaac rattled off a couple of markets. I would add to that San Francisco continues to do quite well. On that
Mhm.
note, Blackstone once again bought
Yep.
a hotel in San Francisco. They bought the Hyatt Regency for 280 or so million dollars after they've already bought the Four Seasons. So clearly, San Francisco is back on the radar for investors because group meeting is healthy, and also the AI-driven return to office, which then drives meetings
Mhm. Yes.
demand, is on everybody's mind. The performance this year, of course, is skewed up by the Super Bowl, and they're going to see some helpful weeknights
Yeah.
when there are games in for World Cup. But so San Francisco, does really well. The thing that just Isaac and I keep looking at is that weekend performance, and are we creating this ADR mirage over the next 60 days where we're saying, wow, look at how the US hotel industry is performing. But when you scratch a little bit and look under the surface and dig into the Saturday night performance that is really driven by the American leisure traveler, are we seeing some signs of weakness? Because the inflation rate continues to be pretty strong or pretty high, and the consumer sentiment data continues to be very, very poor. And does that eventually, or as in now, really come home and our
Mhm.
American leisure travelers saying, maybe I'll sit this one out? This goes back to the earlier conversation about America 250. You could, on the one hand, say, oh, fewer Americans are going abroad. The I-92 data is clear. And
Right.
if they're staying here, maybe this is the year for the Great American Road Trip and everybody goes to Route 66. And, we're going to the secondary, tertiary markets and lifting those up. But the inverse would be, oh, Americans aren't feeling so hot about their own financial situation. And are they then therefore making fewer leisure
Right.
weekend trips? Isaac and I keep looking at this every week. We're going to continue to have this conversation. We're certainly going to talk about it at the Hotel Data Conference. But that's one thing that I'm sort of looking at. Everything else continues to sort of do what it does. Luxury continues to do really well. Limited service hotels also doing quite well, much better than last year. So 3% RevPAR growth or so for upscale and upper mid-scale. That's all, I think, really good and really good to see. But that to me is driven by the American business traveler.
The only thing I would say on the weekend piece, and I didn't think about this until you were talking, so this is all fresh thoughts. But we could, because of the World Cup, especially Juneteenth didn't perform very well, as I think we said earlier, and it could be that people are choosing differently, right? Because if we assume that the folks who travel the most tend to be higher income, 60% of
Mhm.
travelers or something like
Mhm.
that. What I don't remember what Adam told us, Adam Sachs of tourism economics, but it's a high proportion of higher income individuals who tend to travel for leisure, right?
Yes.
And given the World Cup, they would be also the ones that would tend to be at the games.
Be going.
So maybe what we saw in Juneteenth is that people are choosing differently because they would rather go to this game, do something different. And so we're gonna have to be careful. But I think your comment, I wouldn't say it's a mirage, but it's something that folks will have to remember for next year. What we're gonna see in ADR, what we're seeing
Oh,
now when we talk about the World Cup a little bit
for
in
sure.
terms of ADR growth, is going to have a negative impact a year from now on the comparable the comps, right? And so I think it's very important that we just keep remembering it's not a mirage, it's real. That money's coming into the industry, but it won't be there in that extent next year.
And which is why, Isaac and I met in the hallway here yesterday and talked about something else. But then he was like, oh, we really need to think about our 2027 forecast. We have a number out there, but we really have to, once June, July are on the books, think about what's the impact for next year as the quote unquote tough comp.
Right. And no one should be surprised when they see a number like, oh my God. Well, yes, to remember, because what I'm looking at on my wall, which is materializing. So as of this week, the month to date number that we publish is 10.9% RevPAR growth, right? I think that's what we saw.
Yeah. Mhm.
And then it's all ADR. So guys, and gals, that's not going to happen next year.
Right.
Well, it'd be great if it did, but the probability of that happening is probably very low. It's possible, but
Well,
it's very low probabilities.
I think it's zero.
Ooh.
Like, I mean,
Yes, I
You
think you're
know,
right.
I will clip out a little audio clip of you saying this, and we'll make a note to put it
yes, please.
in our podcast next year, which will be much easier to remember than the podcast we're going to have in, what did we say, 299 years for the
49 years from now, yeah.
Okay, too much math. So we are on to our topic of the month. In this episode, we're going to focus on one topic, and yes, that is World Cup. But before we get into it, I have a question for you both first. How do you feel about ranch dressing? Isaac, are you a ranch guy?
Yeah.
You like ranch dressing?
Yeah.
Jan, how do you feel about it?
I'm going to put it in my carry-on.
Well, and you know what? I feel like so many travel related and hotel performance related headlines come out of the World Cup, even though we've only just begun. But I am really enjoying the story of travelers from outside the US who are coming here maybe for the first time and discovering the joys of ranch dressing, so much so that TSA had to issue an official reminder that a full-size bottle of ranch dressing is not acceptable for carry-on luggage. So, there are travel stories everywhere, right?
None more important than Freddie LA7.
Right? As soon as I saw Freddie's first tweet, I sent it to Jan and Isaac and said, you've got to follow Freddie. And he's one of yours, Jan. He's totally a German. Delivered. He's going all around and he is delivering. Now, you, of course, as a very true and loyal German, went to first match in Houston. Give us the vibe.
Yeah, so shout out to the other Jan in the hotel industry. Jan used to work for Falco, now he is an independent consultant, but he listened to our podcast. And I was talking about, maybe thinking about going. And so he pinged me and he's like, hey, they were both married to American women, and both our women are like, we love you guys, but we're not going to do this. Like, this is so boring. So he got us tickets, and we met in Houston at 7 a.m. We both took an early flight out. He was based in Dallas. I took my 5 o'clock Southwest flight from Nashville, and we met at the airport. Thanks to Natalie, found a super cool diner.
On the way Natalie at CoStar News on my team from Houston.
Yeah, because she's in Houston. And next to us sat this awesome father-son duo from Curacao. The son is based in the Netherlands. The father is based in Curacao. And they had flown to Houston and met in the airport as well the night before. The son told me that he had booked, as soon as Curacao qualified, had booked a hotel in every single of the 16 World Cup markets because he didn't know where they were playing, what he wanted to do early.
Right, which is always kind of the lore that that's going to happen. And but he could cancel. He didn't run into any...
Yeah,
he was early enough?
Yeah, he booked them, I guess, further enough from the venue where there weren't any restrictions on it. So I just thought that was interesting. And then they were super nice. And I said, hey, we're going to take an Uber to the stadium. They're like, no, we have a car. You should come with us. And I was like, oh, how cool is that? So we went to the public transportation park and ride in Houston, Texas. Who knew that's a thing? But they have a subway stop. Well, I guess a tram stop, one stop away from the stadium. And so we thanked them, and then we beat them up 7-1.
Yeah, you sure did.
But
But the
our seats were
hospitality was
yeah,
there.
exactly. Our seats were spectacular. They were right next to the German section, in the seventh row. And no, they were not $1,000. They were, $700, which is a lot, but
Okay.
not 1,000. And in Germany, we don't sing our national anthem very often. Like it's like here, it's at every little
Right.
league game or whatever. So it was really kind of touching to stand
Oh.
there and sing the national anthem with like 60,000 other Germans. It was really like a cool experience. And then we were next to the German section, which was right behind one of the goals. And so in the second half, we saw 4 goals really up close and personal. And as the 7th goal was shot, the camera panned over the audience, and Jan and I were on the global TV
Yes, you
broadcast.
are.
And so our phones completely blew up because my family in Germany saw me. It's like, wait, is that you? Are you there? So that was it was just so much fun. Yeah, I mean the German fans, singing and cheering, and they have like all these songs that are playing over the PA when Germany scores a goal. It's like a very specifically choreographed song, and it was just really amazing, and a ton of volunteers. Everybody was happy. I, of course, did not know that the stadium was air conditioned, and that really helps. Turns out Houston in June, because it was
Very
like whatever,
warm.
98 degrees and 98% humidity, felt like it anyways. So that was really cool. I've never been, I guess, to an air conditioned
Well,
stadium.
let me ask you this, Jan. You said you were by sort of the German section, and I know that
Mhm.
you like to talk to people. Did you talk to a lot of people who were there from Germany or from outside the US? Or did you think it was more, you know, American citizens who were
Yeah.
German supporters,
So the
German team
German
supporters?
section was specifically people from Germany taking, 2 or 3 weeks off and
Right,
traveling with the team.
Freddie?
So always going back to North Carolina, and then traveling to Houston in this instance, then to Toronto for the second game, and to New York
Yeah, and to
today,
New York.
when we
Mhm.
record this, for the third game. So they were there, and they were there spending nights in hotels, and taking flights, and eating out in restaurants. And I don't know if you saw that. There was like something online that the Germans had taken over yesterday. Times Square, they call it German
Yes.
Square, and there were,
Yes.
whatever, a couple of 10,000 Germans there. So it's very joyful, it's very joyous. And I mean, you've
Mhm.
seen the images from the Norwegians or the Scots,
Yep.
obviously,
Oh, sure.
or I mean, most of the teams from Africa. They have a super hardcore following with
Yes.
costumes and songs and noisemakers of any sort. So it is truly like the world is coming together. What was also fun to see is in the audience. So there's Curacao in Germany, but there were jerseys from Mexico, and jerseys from Canada, and
Sure.
jerseys just from any other country that's
Right.
playing in the World Cup. And people were like, "Oh, I'm here. Let me just watch
Let's
this
go to a
game."
match.
Yeah. So it was really cool.
Well, and it's exciting to see because, of course, leading up to there were so many different opinions and thoughts, and you can't know until it actually happens. And then to see these first 2 weekends of play garner a lot of that. And Isaac, I'm going to ask you
Yeah.
what some of those performance highlights have looked like because
Yes.
it's strong out of the gate. We still have a long way.
Yes, it's strong. It's very strong, and it's just like I told you so, Jan. I have to do that again.
Ha!
I told you so. I thought a lot of the leading up to this, everyone dire predictions.
Right.
Yeah, what you just described is what I expected. That there are people who are going to come in and they're going to have a good time, and it is a good time. Everything I've seen, even I was texting with Jan that first Saturday in Atlanta. I'm going, Atlanta is really buzzing. And Jan texted back, it's all locals. That's what you said, Jan. And I said, I don't think so. So I'm glad you solved that it's not by going to an
Mhm.
actual game.
And I
So
like
what
that you are both out in the field doing this
out in the
research.
Doing the
field doing our
research.
research. So what we've seen since the start of the World Cups on June 11th through last Saturday, June 20th, the 11 US cities hosting games, RevPAR is up 20.3%. And when you so that's for
Wow.
that for the entire time period, the 10 days, all driven by ADR, up 20.8%. So again, when we start thinking about next
Absolutely.
year, you're seeing a
Mhm.
20.8% ADR lift in the first 10 days. So be mindful of that. Occupancy was flat, as we suggested. When we looked at the
Yeah.
1994 games, we couldn't do it by week. We could only do monthly data because we didn't have weekly data back in 94. But what we saw in that data set back in 1994 was this is a ADR event, and it's playing out as an ADR event. Occupancies are pretty flat because there's a lot of displacement, conferences not going into markets because of the World Cup. Compared to non-World Cup markets, during the same time period, RevPAR was up 8.2%. So again, it's still been a very positive, even within the U.S., even though it may not have a World Cup games, we're still seeing very strong RevPAR at 8.2%. It ranged, just to give you some market data, the RevPAR growth has ranged from 48.4% in San Francisco, San Jose. We've combined those two markets because of where the stadium is, to -7 in Miami. Miami is the one I haven't figured out yet. San Francisco, not only having the World Cup, they've also had some big conferences, including Databricks last week, which also
Mhm.
pushed up RevPAR. So again, not only the World Cup, but other conferences. All but 3 markets have had RevPAR growth of 19% or more. So again, of the 11, only 3 have seen something below 19%,
What are the
and
3?
the 3 would be Miami, which is -7,
Yep.
and then the other 2 are Boston and Philadelphia, where RevPAR rose by 10%.
Mm, okay.
So and then elsewhere, the 3 Mexico, World Cup markets, they're up 39.9% in RevPAR versus -18.5% for the remaining markets in Mexico.
Wow.
And then Canada, there's only 2 markets. Those 2 markets up 4.5% versus -5.3% for the other markets. And
Okay.
so I haven't gotten into more of the Canadian markets. I wanted to understand what was going on there because Canada's been up. We talked about it in the monthly data. They've been up, but this week or the 10 days that I looked at, it was actually down, other than the World Cup markets. So my question again, Jan, do you believe me now? Do you believe me? Can you believe?
So, so I believe the occupancy piece. I'm having in front of me here the daily data for the match day.
Yeah,
I just grabbed the markets and the match day occupancy and the match day ADR change. So for Toronto and Vancouver, actually for every match day, the occupancy is down and basically double digits, in Vancouver and Toronto. But then the ADR is up, 20, 30, 50%. So
Mhm.
it is really truly that ADR story.
right.
I do think that because we see that occupancy weakness, I think the implication here is not only that there is business travel displacement, but also that if the stadium is full and the occupancy is slightly down, I still would make the argument that there are Americans saying, look, I'm only 2 hours away from Atlanta. Let's just hop in the car and go, and then not stay there and drive back home. And the truth is somewhere in the middle.
Yeah,
I
it's in
think
the
we're both
middle.
right.
Again, it's playing out like it did in '94. I think all the hype and everything, it's playing out exactly what it did in '94.
And as you forecasted it would for this time, have you
Yeah.
heard anything from AirDNA or folks in the short-term rental? I haven't seen any data.
Yeah. So, Jamie, shout out. He's
Mhm.
a listener to our podcast. We listen to his podcast. So, he published a lot of interesting data leading up to it and just basically
Right.
saying, look, the booking curve is exactly as expected.
Mhm.
That things as we get closer to match days, we see higher pickup in occupancy.
Yes.
And that to me was honestly one of the surprising data in the booking, in the forward booking data, is that even for the matches that were announced, I don't know, December 5th, we knew what the pairing was and we
Right.
knew where the games were happening. And still, people waited till a week prior to book their rooms. And I was just,
I
that to me, it was
know.
just a surprise. I guess now it's not a surprise anymore. But so that matched what the AirDNA data showed as well.
Okay.
AirDNA they have a slightly different issue than what we have, and Jamie talks about it because their supply fluctuates so
Right.
widely and
Mhm.
wildly, because you can just, Isaac can just move out of his condo here, move in our second bedroom, and then his condo, he thinks gets, $2,000 or something,
Oh,
So
well, try
that's
it.
that's what people have thought. I don't know that all came to pass, and Jamie certainly can talk about it after the fact. But there definitely was a supply. There was a supply issue, quote unquote, on the Airbnb side.
And I think I would not be surprised. Again, we've seen this flat occupancy. Our forecast is for flat occupancy in these markets. But I wouldn't be surprised now that we're seeing a lot of excitement and a lot of coverage, what we saw in Boston, what we've seen in Atlanta, that we might actually see better occupancy results as this continues, as we get closer to the finals, right? So we may be pleasantly surprised as the continued buildup. So I would expect more bookings, et cetera. So we have to watch it. Just
Yeah,
have to watch
and
it.
the other part, and I think we said this last time, this is a feature, not a bug of the system, that the Germans didn't know that they would be in Boston until last week, right?
Right.
And so now that we know it, okay, now Germans can book for the round of 32. So
Right.
there's just, we didn't know where we were going. So the third place teams, a lot of them are not yet sure where they're going to play. There are a lot more games tomorrow, today, tomorrow, the day after. And then the fans will know where their teams are going to play, and then they will make the decision to book.
So you're just reminding us that Germany got into the knockout stage quite early in today's match.
Not that anybody was
Really,
wondering.
Not that anyone was wondering.
Hey, the
but-
US as well. The US as well.
Yes.
Okay,
Hey, the U.S. might win 3 matches in a row. Well, knock
Yes.
wood. They play
Turkey today.
later today as well.
Yep.
I also think it'll be interesting to look at, or it's been interesting for me to think about when you look at booking patterns. Like you mentioned, your friends from Curacao had booked in every city. We've also heard about, of course, hotels doing, minimum night stays or having different cancellation policies. And I always wonder how that factors in because it can be so different from hotel to hotel.
Yeah, there was
Hard
an
to track.
article. Was it on Forbes? I read somewhere a reporter was talking to a gentleman who had booked his rooms way out
Mm-hmm.
and realized that the room he could get tonight was much cheaper than the
Right.
room that he had booked. And there was no cancellation policy, and the hotel was like, sorry, this is the room you booked, this is the room you get. And he was very, very unhappy and had some
Right.
choice words for the reporter that she printed. So I think my understanding is that the minimum length of stay requirements that were put in place, December 5th or so, eroded rather quickly.
Mhm.
When the
Yes, I
initial
remember that.
dynamism of booking did not materialize, and so hoteliers were like, oh, okay, well then maybe it's just one night, and we make it a little bit easier for people to come in.
Right.
And then we're seeing the booking pattern hold as we get closer to
Sure.
the event. People are booking.
Right.
And
And
I
that's
think-
always one of those levers that hotels can pull around event demand.
And I think it's just a reminder to all the hoteliers: just stick to your guns. Don't. Again, I think there was so much press and negative press that this was
Mhm.
going to be a bust. And deep down, your gut said it can't be a bust. I mean, deep down, we knew it couldn't be a bust, right? And so, because it is the largest sporting event in the world, right, followed by more nations, it's like, did you really think no one's going to show up? The answer is no. And the other part of it is, I was with a GM on Saturday, 2 weeks ago, and he said, whenever someone presents me a budget of a sporting event or any event, I always cut it by 50% because that I know is going to happen. He goes, don't just, we're going to make $1 billion. No, probably not $1 billion, but you might make $1 million. Let's go with $1 million, or that's probably not 50%.
Shoot for the stars and you may shoot for the moon and you may end up among the stars. So listeners, we know that you are always hungry for World Cup data. So I would like to remind you to check out our other podcast channel, the CoStar News Hotels podcast channel, in which our sports reporter, Trevor Simpson, will be doing a halftime podcast with Didio Pequeno on the CoStar analyst side. They did a pregame. They're doing a halftime to look ahead at the knockout rounds and what to expect in some of the markets coming up. And then they'll do a postgame after the fact. So
is his title really sports reporter?
we call him sports reporter. It's, well, unofficially, his title is sports reporter. So now it is. Yes, it is. But they've got some fun stuff planned for that episode. So keep an ear out for that. And now our episode comes to a close, and it is time, as always, to share a little metaphor of how Isaac and Jan feel that the industry is performing right now. Why do I have a feeling we're going to get a song, a cheer, a chant? Somehow, I think it's going to happen. Isaac, what do you got?
All right, this is just for Jan.
Oh,
Because it can be lonely at times being in my little data cave and always being, no, it's not gonna, everything's bad, everything's going, yeah, it's not gonna happen. And he come and I go, Jan, it's gonna be okay. So I found yesterday I was researching this. What song, what captures this moment? And out of the clear blue, Eddie Vedder and another band called Guitars Over Guns came out with this song, which is just perfect for Jan. Better believe. Jan, better believe.
amen.
You better believe we'll rise up. Believe what you see. Lift your eyes up to the data. You better believe.
Oh, love
Eddie
it.
Vedder. Eddie Vedder.
I know.
Love it.
I don't want to be lonely here in the data cave. I want
Data mine.
data mine.
I knew we'd get you to sing a little bit before the episode was over. Better believe.
Better believe, Jan.
Better believe. Amen.
Maybe you can start a new chant at your next World
Oh.
Cup match of this song. I mean, what do you got for us, Jan?
So I'm contractually obligated every World Cup and during every Euro to use this quote by the British striker Gary Lineker, which goes as follows. Football is a simple game. 22 men chase a ball for 90 minutes, and at the end, the Germans always win. He said that in 1990, and it has lived on forever.
So that
And the
is your
Germans-
forecast, right? As a
Yes.
as an analyst, as a forecaster.
That's what we're going with. So how does this relate to the hotel industry? You know, I think we're all feeling like a winning team right now.
Yeah.
You know, like you run very hard,
Yeah.
you do what you do, but I think if you look at the data, which we believe,
Better
I
believe.
think, you know, the American hoteliers feel like a winning team right now.
That is a great note to end on, listeners. Thank you for sticking with us for another episode. Hope you have a great month. Find us wherever you like to listen, including now on YouTube. Find all the news about the global hotel industry at costar.com/hotel news. And as we've mentioned several times in this episode, don't miss out on registering for this year's Hotel Data Conference, August 5 through 7 in beautiful Nashville. Visit hoteldataconference.com and come on board and join us. Thanks, guys. See you next month.
See ya.
Bye.
The marquee gathering of the industry's data community is almost here. Join us August 5th through 7th in Nashville for the 18th annual Hotel Data Conference. With a unique mix of attendees, impactful networking, and practical best practices you can put to work immediately, HDC is where data turns into decisions. Visit hoteldataconference.com to view the 2026 lineup and secure your spot today.
This episode of Tell Me More, a Hospitality Data Podcast, was recorded on June 25, 2026. The episode was edited by Sean McCracken. Find all hotel industry news at costar.com/hotel news. Thanks for listening.